Call this meeting to order. Dr. Fowler, do you want to do roll call?
Thank you, President Reese. I want to let the record show that we have four board members present this evening. Board member
Glover.
Thank you. Board member Glover is absent tonight.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll just point out that Dr. Fowler's covering for Dr. Thomason, who's on vacation. I know Mr. Glover is at the HUSD conference, so that's why he's not here. And I want to thank Val for covering for Mrs. Reach, who had surgery today, so we wish her well. Thank you for being here. All right, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding the agenda? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. All right, we are going to recess our board meeting to go into our public hearing for the fiscal year 19 expenditure budget presentation. Ms. Good, do we need a motion on that, or do we just recess? Okay, so we will turn it over to Mr. Holland for our public meeting. Now, with our board meeting in recess and it's a public hearing, if anyone has any questions at any time, you can feel free to speak up and ask questions as we go. Mr. Holland?
Good evening, President Reese, members of the board, cabinet, and our distinguished Higley community. I did come prepared tonight with a couple of jokes. Hopefully they're okay. So college is the opposite of kidnapping because they demand $100,000 from you or they will give you your kid back. And the light at the end of the tunnel has been turned off due to budget. Sorry. Was trying to figure out a way to make this a little bit more humorable last. We'll see. Tonight I bring to you our budget for the 18-19 school year and ask you to adopt. So there are many factors that go into the budget development process. So first we look at our current student enrollment. We then look at our projected student enrollment for the next year. We look at our account balances and any carry forward monies we may have, state funds, federal funds, and any local funds. as well as our tax levied money. Because a portion of our funds come from our community through our property taxes and assessments, there's always a concern as how will the tax rate be affected this next school year. Our tax rate is primarily driven by our budget and the qualifying tax rate, or the QTR. The QTR is the tax rate that is set by the JLBC to determine the local tax levy required before a district is eligible for equalization assistance. The QTR is adjusted annually based on an inverse relationship to the assessed valuation for the entire state. So, i.e., if the statewide evaluation goes down, the qualifying tax rate goes up, and vice versa. So what has happened is this year, the qualifying tax rate went down because the statewide assessed valuation went up, so there was more property value to spread that tax across. Specifically for our district, our assessed valuation went up from $596 million to $638 million. All right, then. Our evaluation went from 596 up to 638 million, so there was more value to spread the. Plus, we have our M&O override, which is next year will be our third year for that override, and we have our debt service repayment schedule. So in FY18, our primary tax rate was 4.48, and our secondary tax rate was 3.2281, which was made up of our M&O override of 1.5479, last year being the second year, plus our bonds of 1.6802, for a total of 7.7081. Next year for 19, this is an estimated amount, as our tax rate is not officially set and doesn't come out until August timeframe. However, we estimate our primary tax rate to be 3.9753, and our secondary would be 3.1294, again being made up of our M&O override of 1.61 and our bonds at 1.5194, for a combined total of 7.147, which comparatively is a decrease in our tax rate of 0.6034. Our M&O budget is calculated. First, we start with our revenue control limit, which calculated out next year to be a little over 60.2 million. Plus, we have our M&O override of a little over 10.4. We have our estimated budget balance carry forward of 3.5. Then we have the state land trust allocation, or Higley's portion of the $50 million, which calculated out to be about $526,700, bringing us to a total budget for FY19 to be a little over 74.7 million, whereas in FY18, our May revised budget was 73.7. So in essence, you'll notice our budget increased by approximately a little over $1 million for next year. Also, something important that I wanted to note is please note that the carry forward amount, estimated amount of 3.5, is only an estimate, and it may be larger once we finish paying all of our bills and closing out the year. However, any additional increase will be reflected in the future budget provision. The additional $1 million will be used for salary increase and additional positions. So what's changed? What's new? So we have a change in our base level support. So in FY18, the base level per pupil support was $3,729.31. We have an inflation of a little over 1.8%. Plus, we have a continuation of the 1.06 and some additional funding that was allocated, $280.26. So our new 19 base level support per pupil was $4,009.57, or approximately 7.5% per pupil increase for the 18-19 school. We also have an additional reporting requirement. So now, districts are required to post all average teacher salaries for the current year and the proposed coming year. So our average salary for all teacher positions for FY18 was $47,972. Our average salary for all teachers for FY 2019, is $54,070, which is a $6,000 increase or 13%. Also, one thing that's important to note is that these amounts may change based on future budget revisions. Any changes that are made will be, of course, posted on our website and updated. Next, we have our unrestricted capital budget. So for FY 2018, our budget was a little over $15.4 million. We have about $6.5 million in expenditures, so we have an estimated a little over $8.9 million to carry over. Our portion, since we have such a large need for capital funding here in this district, we had to move $10 million out of our operating. Plus, we have our district additional assistance, or DAA, which is a little over $2 million, bringing our total unrestricted capital budget to a little over 20.9. These funds will be used, of course. One, our middle school lease payment is increasing next year by $1 million, so it'll be $4.2 million. We also have our current curriculum adoption and our IT refresh program. We're also trying to put in place a transportation replacement or refresh. We have capital needs for the district, plus we have our potential transfer of the adjacent ways. The state has begun a process to restore the district additional assistance, or the DAA, over the next 5 years. So previously, the statewide reduction was $352 million, or approximately 85 or 87% to district budgets. For FY 18-19, the reduction will be $257 million, so the districts will have an additional $95 million for next year. Currently, our DAA calculated out to be a little over $5.8 million, with an approximate cut of 65%, so a little over 3.7. So the district has 35% left, which is the $2 million. And as I mentioned, the district does have many capital needs, and so we did remove $10 million out of the operating budget, but I'm making note of that because it's important, since the district does have limited bond funding to pull from, and we can't continue to keep pulling large amounts out of our operating budget. The district will need to consider, or may need to consider, a capital override.
Mr. Holland, can I make a comment real quick on the district additional assistance? What the governor did and the proposed and everything that happened before the end of the session was that, and like you had indicated here, but just to clarify, that they weren't going to quit cutting our district additional assistance, because I don't know if people understand, while they give us district additional assistance, then they take it back. Right. And so the new proposal was that they weren't going to quit taking it back. It was they're not going to take as much back. Correct. And so that's what you were indicating now. They're only going to take 65%? That's
correct.
Okay. So they're taking 65% of what we should be allotted for district additional assistance.
Correct. The process of trying to restore the formula, of course, will be over a 5-year period of time. Starting for next year, so I said it's about $95 million to spread across for all school districts. So it equates to about $90 to $100 per student. So that increase was a little over $1 million. And plus, keep in mind that our middle school lease payment is going up $1 million.
I just wanted to clarify that is we are supposed to be allotted that money. That's what should be coming to our district, and the state is taking it back. And so now they've committed to taking less back over the next 5 years.
That's correct.
So we're still not getting everything that we should or district should from the state, from a funding perspective, of what we should be allotted.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have our special education programs. So first, we have our all disability classification. So that budget for FY19, or excuse me, 18, was not a little over 9.2 million. However, their expenses are currently running around 9.7 million. So we have budgeted for FY19 10.4 to help cover those costs, plus the additional increases with SPED expenses. Next, we have our gifted education program. That budget for FY18 was $376,286, and they will have the same budget for next year. Also, one thing I wanted to just point out is please remember that the state does not provide funding for gifted education, so the district sets money aside each year so that we can do that program. Next, we have our classroom site fund, or our Prop 301. So we have, for 2018, we have our budget minus our estimated expenditures, because again, please keep in mind that we are still in the process of paying out payroll for this year, and we have not officially closed out the year. We have an estimated unexpended balance of a little over 3.3 million. Our allocation for next year is a little over 6, plus we have about $22,000 in interest, giving us a new budget for 19, a little over 9.3 million. I've had some questions as to why is there such a large unexpended carryover balance in these particular funds. Well, in an effort to be fiscally responsible and so that the district can ensure that there's funding to be able to provide an increase for our teachers each year. And that's why we do not allocate out at time. Plus, the carry forward is also used to help cover the costs for additional teachers and expenses that come up each year. Also, a performance pay out of Fund 12, which I'll explain in a little bit more in a minute. But that performance pay, not all teachers may end up being eligible for that performance pay. Maybe they don't finish all of the requirements. So not everybody will get that funding. Plus, that funding is only paid out 50% in the current year. Then once the test results come out around July, August timeframe, then from the Department of Ed, the remaining 50% will then be paid out at that time. Hence, again, you have a larger balance that you're carrying over because you still haven't paid out the other. These funds all come into Fund 10, however, then broken down into 3 different buckets. That revenue is broken down by 20%, 40%, 40%. How that allocation is determined is from our FY18 Group A weighted student count, plus the allocation for next year is $423, which is a $37 per pupil increase. So Fund 11 is used for base salary. So you'll notice that current year in 18, it was used for $1,400. That will be increased to $1,450. The Fund 12, or the performance pay that I just referenced, was $2,750 this year, will increase to $3,000. And Fund 13, or other, will go from $1,400 to $1,450. Also, please note that Fund 13 is also used to help cover the cost for additional teachers and expenses. Next, we have additional funds. So we have our federal projects. So those allocations are determined by that federal program. That program is passed through the Department of Education. And so the funding flows from the U.S. Department of Ed through the Arizona Department of Ed out to each of the LEAs. Next, we have our Instructional Improvement Program, or Indian Gaming funding. Our budget for FY19 is $618,934, and those funds are used for class size reduction. Also, please remember that this is a cash-controlled fund, and the second 2018 payment has not yet been received. The budget, once those additional funds are received, July, time frame, that budget will then increase by $176,000 approximately, which will be reflected in the future budget. Have any questions? Thanks. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? Anyone? Nope. Thank you for putting it together and doing our public presentation.
You're welcome. You know, I have one thing just quickly to mention. I did have a question yesterday from an individual wondering, which I didn't have in here. It was about our state funding. So the state funded projects was about 95. You'll notice in your budget on page 6 was about 95,000 this year, and it's going up. Be a little over 700,000 for next year. And he wanted to know what exactly made that up. That was made up of 2 different funds. So you had the new college credit exam funding that is for next year, which is approximately about 10,000. And then we have our results-based funding, which is about 657. So that's how it increased from 95 up to 7. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, if we don't have any questions, we will go ahead and resume our regular board meeting. So we will go on to superintendent's report. So Dr. Fowler.
Thank you, President Reese. They're going to queue up a video for me here just shortly. And as the video is coming up, we were able to go ahead and push. As you know, we are always looking for ways to increase revenue to support our underfunded programs that we need to operate. And one of a big way that we do that is through community education. And I wanted to give community education department some credit this week, as we were able to, from Tuesday to Saturday, be the site for the second week of the Phoenix Suns camp that was hosted at Waynesfield High School, as you saw, also Cooley Middle School and Higley High School. We had 185 campers, and the staff, which were made up of college and high school coaches, as well as kind of a real unique opportunity. On Thursday night was the night that the NBA draft occurred, and so the campers actually watched the draft live in our Waynesfield auditorium, and they noticed and saw that DeAndre Ayton was taken #1 in the draft. Little did the campers know that on Saturday the Suns had planned all along to not only bring DeAndre Ayton, but the other 3 players that were drafted. And each of the Suns draft picks were at the camp on Saturday morning, and each of the campers got their autograph. And then those campers stayed, or those draft picks actually stayed and helped pass out the awards and had pictures afterwards. So certainly a memorable experience for those campers, and just another example of things that we do to really look to generate more revenue. And just wanted to give special note to Michael Balea and Chris Good, who worked very, very hard all week and constantly heard feedback from the Phoenix Suns and from the coaches about how hard those guys worked to just be very accommodating. And the Suns were very pleased with our facilities and are excited about, continuing that long-term partnership. So just thank you for letting me share that. And then also, as far as upcoming events, we were scheduled for Wednesday, July the 11th, but it's my understanding that we are rescheduling that board meeting and moving it to July 18th. And that's a brief board meeting. with a work study at 6 p.m. And then also on July the 18th, we have the Welcome Back Rally at the Higley Center for Performing Arts, and that's at 8 a.m. And then Monday, July 23rd, if you could believe it, it's party time for the first day of school. And those are all the comments that I have.
Thank you. All right, we'll go on to board comments. Anyone have any board comments?
Maybe Dr. Fowler too, talk about July 4th that we're hosting along with.
Oh, thank you for
Yes.
reminding me. As we continue to partner in other ways, you may or may not know, last year, Higley High School was the site for the town's annual 4th of July fireworks celebration, and it was such a success that we've partnered again with them this year, and the practice field at Higley High School will be the site that that you can come and watch the fireworks. And so they've got to sign up, and they're advertising that. So it's a nice family event for those that are here. I know many people try to get out of town that week, but a great location, and they'll have food trucks, and excited to be part of that here in Higley.
Thank you. Any other board comments? All right. Then we will go on to request to speak to the governing board. Do we have any requests tonight? Okay. We will go on. Then 6.0, I move that we approve consent agenda items from 6.2 to 6.14 as they're presented.
Support.
Any questions, comments?
I have a question, I guess. This might be for Mum. I was noticing on our personnel we have a teacher that might be out for an extended period of time. Are we going to, I just saw like a leave of absence. Do we do a long-term sub for that position, or do we hire for that position knowing that it's the whole year?
It depends on the circumstances, but in this situation, we are hiring for the full academic year.
While we have you at the mic, could you give us an update in reference with school starting on that? Are we okay in reference to the teachers and all our openings and things like that? Is there any other positions? I mean, how are you doing?
No, certainly. This is a crazy time of year for us with all of the hiring, not only in certified positions, but also in classified. And as of yesterday, we only had about 8 certified positions that were still left to hire for the new school year, which is good. If you recall, we had about a 96% return rate in our contracts for our certified employees, particularly our teachers in the classroom. So that was a great number to begin with. And some things have happened since then where other certified positions have left and decided, some instances where employees, spouses, or partners have had to move out of state unexpectedly, or individuals that we had offered contracts to where some things happened personal and they've had to move out of state unexpectedly. So we've had some little changes here and there in regards to needing to add in terms of that hiring list. But the team in Human Resources has been wonderful. They've been working actively and making sure that we're getting everybody in that we need to get in, that we're getting them ready for the new year, that we've done not only contract addendums, but new work agreements for our classified based on the end of May when the board approved the increases related to the new state dollars. We're working on new teacher orientation. Something you may not know, prior to my arrival, the district had purchased a new applicant tracking system that also encompassed a new onboarding component called Talent Ed through People Admin, and we've been actively looking to get that up and ready. So summer's very short here at Higley, and I can't believe July is next week, but I think we're doing a great job, and I've got a wonderful team of people that I work with within Student Services and Human Resources that help make all of that happen. They really come together and pitch in and do everything they can while still allowing other people to take some time off, because really this is the only time that you can take off until we get into the heart of the fall. So,
I had a follow-up question on the supplemental positions. The last one is a security monitor for the lip sync battles. Does the lip sync get really out of control? Do they need an additional security monitor?
Oh, that's fun. It's just policy and procedures that we always have security at those different events in general, but it's great to see that the high schools and different organizations come on and come together and do some fun things, and that we could support them in that way.
Any other questions on consent?
President Reese, I just want to commend our policy committee. I know you guys are going through every policy with a fine-tooth comb, and I read all these things, and I know so many of them are connected to ASBA and whatnot, and that is so helpful for me to understand. So I just want to, hats off to you guys. I know you're still continuing to sift through. Thank you.
Yes, they have been doing a good job, and I haven't been there. Exactly. No, that team is doing an excellent job. All right, any other questions, comments? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 4-0. All right, we're going to go on to our action and information items. I move that we approve the fiscal year 19 adopted annual expenditure budget.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 4-0. 7.2, I move that we approve purchasing contract renewals for fiscal year 18-19. Any questions or comments regarding our renewal contracts? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 4-0. I move that we approve continuation of existing cooperative agreements for the 18-19 school year.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding that?
Madam President, I'm going to recuse myself from the vote for a perceived conflict of interest. I don't believe there's an actual conflict, but I'd like to at least remove any perception as well.
Okay, we'll note that that Mr. Thornock won't be participating in this particular item. Is there any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 3-0. We're going to go on to 7.4. I move that we approve the sole source procurement vendors for fiscal year 18-19.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. I'm 7.5. I move that we award graduation items RFP 18-03-23.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
President Reese.
Mrs. Kaler?
Dr. Fowler, is this instead of Balfour, Doston's, do you know? It is. And is there a particular reason that we were unhappy? They didn't. Okay, good to know. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That motion carries 4-0. I move that we approve a 5% performance pay increase for the superintendent, or 5% performance pay for the superintendent based on achievement for 2017-18 performance goals.
Second. Oh,
Any questions or comments regarding that? I just want to note that at our last board meeting in our executive session, we did hold Dr. Thomason's performance evaluation, which the board is very pleased on how he's doing. And by state law, he has performance pay. And so we do have to, not that we wouldn't, but by state law, we do have to approve a performance percentage. And 5% is the maximum that we can approve for him, and I believe Dr. Thomason, and based on the feedback I got regarding his performance review, I believe that's greatly deserved. So,
President Reese,
Mrs. Kaler?
talking with Dr. Thomason about this performance pay with him, I don't know if many people know this, but usually he invests that back into Higley. He doesn't keep that money. He talked to me this time that he's looking at providing the Dave Ramsey financial piece to teachers that want to take that class. So that's just amazing to me, and I think people need to know that about him. So.
Thank you. I know this piece, I guess right now it's probably kind of good that he's not here, because I know this piece really makes him uncomfortable, because he is very, very humble about that and just loves what he does. So I guess it's kind of good so he's not all embarrassed. Oh, he'll be watching. All right, if we don't have any other questions or comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 4-0. Yay. Yeah. We're going to go on to 7.7. I move that we approve the disbursement of the results-based funding dollars as they are presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments? I know this one's really difficult because the results-based funding goes back a couple years, and that's what the funding is based on. So I know this has been a really difficult decision. We have had many conversations. Committee has talked about it. I believe that we've dealt with the Higley Education Association with it, and Meet and Confer, there's been conversations. So this has been a really difficult thing, because we didn't even know we were getting it, and then we're told about results-based funding, and it was from 2 years ago. And so trying to determine how to divvy that up when it wasn't even in existence for the time that they're being rewarded, if you will. So it was a really difficult conversation and a lot of time and effort, and I appreciate everyone who spent time and effort on trying to come up with what I feel is a very equitable agreement.
President Reese.
Mrs. Kaler?
I agree with you. I've had numerous conversations with Dr. Thomason about results-based funding. I've had conversations with teachers that were on the committee. I was very impressed that he helped, or whoever behind Dr. Thomason and others, built the committee that included teachers that did get the monies allocated towards because of their results, and those that didn't. And I know there was a long process. Many school districts paid this out last year already, and we're kind of behind the times. So I know it was so that they could continuously meet and listen to every voice that had a concern. So I'm happy that this is finally on our agenda.
And I just want to note, too, that we don't even know if
Governor Ducey already said that it will not be ever again, so as long as he's there. So it's a one and done, and it put the districts in really a compromised situation on how to fund this. So I'm thankful. I think that they did come up with a agreement that pleases most.
I agree. Any other questions or comments regarding this particular item? Anything from the HR side?
President Reese, members of the board, one thing that I do want to comment on is I think part of the delay ended up in a bigger win for everybody, because we had a lot that had gone on with the movement and the Red for Ed, and I think a lot of the teachers that were initially on the committee, and when we first met, I think our first meeting was sometime in August or September, then when we had our final meeting in May, I think the movement itself really switched their thinking and wanting to be inclusive of everybody who worked for Higley at that time versus where they had come in initially and said, you know, I'm here to say this is only going to the teachers and the sites that earn this. So I saw a lot of growth. And so I think some of it was by accident, but with Dr. Thomason waiting, I think that really helped bring the Higley community together in that decision and that process.
Thank you. Right, if we have no more comments or questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 4-0. All right, we're on future agenda items. So we do still have items on our future, for future agendas. I know that we will, we've moved some stuff around that's going to be on our July 18th. It is a work study, and we are going to be talking about teacher evaluations is one of them. We're circling back with accelerated reader. That's going to be on the July 18th. So, anyone have any other future agenda items?
Madam President, we have asked for an update. We had a presentation in reference to technology, and we have asked for a work study session in reference to an update, some of the conversation that took place at that meeting.
I will try and see what date we can get that on and get a date assigned to it. It's noted that we've requested it, but I agree, let's see if we can get a date put to it. Any other future agenda items? All right. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Have a good evening. And I guess almost a good rest of the summer. We'll have one more work study before we're back in school.